is where our elders are, which unfortunately these are the folks that are dealing with like the higher burden of disease when it comes to like these chronic illnesses. So it was really important that we meet them where they are, go to them, and fortunately because of that effort, they saw that we actually cared and they showed up and spoke up, which was great.
Yes, amen. So I know there's a inquiring mind out there listening. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Rodine. Like she said, she's a student, and she brought this initiative to the community with her school. And one thing I would like to talk about was the workshops. The workshops, I think y'all did a phenomenal job, especially, I think through the workshops, we end up generating a bunch of good creative ideas that got us to this level that we're talking about today. There was members of the community there, in all walks of life, in all business professions, and we separated into groups. We separated into groups, and we talked about, what is a community, and what are the important things that we need to grow a community, and we discussed these ideas. We put on paper. We even wrote up a chart, and I guess the most popular idea that was generated from all the groups, that's the idea that we went with, and and it really helped. It was really impactful, and it really opened people's eyes on how to grow a community. One of the things that we figured out, programs help grow a community. Mm-hmm. We talk about farming. We talk about all kind of ideas. Mm-hmm. And Rodine, you could, definitely tell us what some of the great ideas was, mm-hmm. the ones that was most popular. But and we had 2 sessions. We had 2 sessions, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah. I would love to touch. Well,
no, go ahead.
So the events happened. One was in February, mm-hmm. which was at the Robinson West Chase Library. That group was a very interesting mix of our younger Haitian folks, our first generation, second generation Haitian Americans. Mm-hmm. We had our elders and folks who maybe are fresher, like newer immigrants. The one that happened in March, I think we had more families involved. And we also had a lot of the elders there, which was really great. So like we said, what made this, sometimes I get asked is like, if we're going to be doing research, and this is Dr. Katia.
Hi, Dr. Katia. Hey, Doctor, qui j'en
ai? She's amazing woman. You're gonna love her by the time she starts speaking. But the sessions were broken into 3 things that we wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. And before I started going there, I was saying that like sometimes people ask, if we're gonna be doing like a needs assessment, why do we need to do visioning? Just go and ask people and then do what you need to do. But I think what makes it important, like you said, Richard, it gives people an opportunity to give us direction. Because sometimes when researchers go into a community, we can come in with like a savior complex, like I'm going to help you and this is what you need. But in this approach, it was like, I'm here with resources. I'm also here to learn from you. So how can we help? And tell us what exactly do you need. I'm not just going to predict what you need. So what we did, the first session, we talked about like the Haitian network and outreach. Like where can we reach Haitians, right? We talked about like different events that people usually frequent, different spaces that we meet. The second thing we did was, what are some of the guiding principles? What are some things that the Haitian community hold true to that us as researchers and as a group need to also hold true to and behold when we actually are creating projects, when we're creating interventions? And some of the community values, not surprising, would included like herbal, holistic medication. Like our elders were like, yes, we don't mind taking pills, but we want this sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're going to be talking about chronic disease prevention, let's try to bring like a holistic view to it. There were also values about spirituality and our faith. A lot of us are Christian, and that's important to us. Culture, financial freedom was one. Education, we know our people love education. I mean, we have the Liglis Lakai L'école mantra. So it wasn't surprising that we had that as a value. And then the very last thing we talked about was, in your opinion, what types of health issue do you think is most important for us to address? And I would say the community vision. Yes.
No. I wanted to say something real quick. Like,
of course.
The psychological disease in the community, because some Haitians don't understand what is stress, what is the PTSD, what is trauma, and when they become parents, actually they reflect that on their kids, and this is slowing our community in a way.
It is. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that was actually mentioned. It was mental health improvement strategies. So how can we address the mental health issues that plague our culture? Like you said, stress. Around that time, there were also issues around, well, there's still issues around immigration, right? With, I don't want to get political, so I'm not going to name any names, but there's been some changes in policies that have unfortunately targeted our Haitian community. So that brings a lot of stress. And unfortunately, and Dr. Kata, you can speak on this more than I can, but like stress leads to biological things that could happen in our bodies, right? Or it makes diseases worse. Like, it's not just like I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling stressed. Mental health is all interconnected with also our physical well-being.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The way we process stress can definitely not only lead to more chronic conditions and more difficult in managing these chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, just to name a few. So, yeah.
Yeah. And just to close it out, Richard, the vision that the community came up with, I'll list them out because these are, everybody's listening, these are our words. The first thing that come up was a physical community center. A physical community center, a place to congregate, a place that is ours, a place that is a safe space for us. The second thing was organic farming, finding ways that we can grow our own foods. Like when I went to Haiti, I was like, I was so mad. I'm not eating well here at all. Organic farming, access to education. Richard and Max and Dorothy were part of this program with HCC, giving people access to education and trade training. Another thing was chronic disease education prevention, investments in Haitian businesses, lowering the rates of hospitalizations, health education and screenings, mental health, translation services, a spirit of collaboration, because, and Dorothy, this is your bread and butter, we can't work in silos. Yes, we are Haitian and we want to take care of ourselves, but we do have to work hand in hand with other communities, and then remaining connected to our homeland, Haiti. So whatever project we're doing, the community wanted to be something that is connected to our culture and our homeland. So that's what we learned from the vision.
That's good. Yeah. Now that we brought up the vision, how did we transition from the vision to where we are today?
Okay. I was like, how do I reduce a year of stories into like 5 minutes? All right. A lot of work. Okay, so after the visioning, like I said, we're using a framework called MAP. And MAP is like a phased-out approach to needs assessment. It's like there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So after visioning, the phase 3 part should be a needs assessment, which is essentially doing surveys, interviews with folks, focus groups, to actually get data, like numbers. I think the visioning gave us like words to express what we want to see, but then we actually need numbers. And those numbers are important because when we're going out to communities and decision makers and saying, hey, the Haitian community really needs this, how do you know? Right? I have to have published numbers to tell them. So that was the second phase. Now, something really interesting happened in January 2025, which will remain nameless. But there was some stuff that occurred within our current government where a lot of funding priorities were changed. Let's just say that. So a lot of the grants that we were applying for, unfortunately, they lost funding or they were closed. So we were just like, okay, how do we make this happen? We got the community mobilized. How do we continue this work? So the first thing we did was we did write a grant to the Episcopal Health Foundation. Again, changes happened, and we're like, okay. Then we recognized that, like, our group, we do need some help with capacity building. We're a small group of people trying to work for a relatively large community. And the Episcopal Health Foundation had a program called the CHCI. And CHCI, let me just look at my notes because I don't want to butcher it. It's called Collaborating for Healthy Communities. And essentially, it's a capacity building program for collaboratives here in the state of Texas, not just Houston. So that was an opportunity for us to say, you know what? If we're kind of in limbo trying to find funding, let's actually strengthen our collaborations and see if whenever funding opens, the door will open. Like I said, I'm a believer. I know bon Dieu pas commencer avant, pas fini. So I was like, you know what? As we wait, let's just work on ourselves. So the CHCI program, we applied for it, and fortunately we were selected. And we applied for it as a collaborative, and what that means is the planning group, who the names I've listed at the beginning of this program, along with HHU, partnered together as a collaborative to say we're going to do this together. So as part of the cohort, we're getting support from a coach, we're getting support from the foundation itself to essentially grow the collaborative, build some sort of system for decision making, so that again, when we start doing things, that we do it right and we do it correctly. And a sweet little spot as part of the collaborative was like, hey, we're going to give you some funds. We're like, well, why not? And that's what the funding is coming from. We applied for it back in October or November. And our focus, because we learned from the visioning event, and the three focus that Episcopal Health Foundation has was maternal and child health, food and nutrition security, and diabetes management. So because of what we learned from the visioning, we're like, chronic illness, diabetes, let's focus on that. So we're going to be using that fund to do that work. So that's how we got here.
Now, this was a homework assignment for you.
No, actually.
Okay.
So it was something that I was interested in, again, because of infant health. And then I realized I can't find any numbers. Then I realized I can't find any numbers about Haitians at all. And I thought, well, I'm learning all of this in school. Why can't I just put it into practice? And it became what it became. And again, like I said, it's something that was birthed, yes, from an idea that sparked, but that idea would have died down without the help from the community, from the people that we partnered with. So, yeah.
I know there's somebody out there, inquiring minds want to know, but combien cob nous recevoir pour bagay ça?
It's about business.
I would say it's enough to support the research and implementation of interventions. And we're going to be using that wisely. So we said, we have a coach that's going to work with us to say, here's the best way to manage the funds. Let's just say the Lord blessed us with enough to do as much change as we need to do in this community.
Yes.
In regards to health.
Yes, in regards to health.
There will
But
be.
thank you for thinking about this Haitian community, because this initiative could have went to another community, you know. But Rodine brought it to our community because, of course, we need this this help, and we need to educate the community about our eating habits, our eating patterns, and what's, because one thing I can tell about Haitian food, They say Haitian food is it is the best food, but not everything is healthy. You know, Dr. Katia. Dr. Katia can elaborate more on that because in her profession, she deals with diet, right? And talk to us.
Business
Hi.
owner.
All right. As they said, my name is Dr. Katia Jean-Baptiste. I am a obesity medicine specialist, so a lot of my work really dealt with helping people lose weight, changing diets, and overall making lifestyle changes. I mean, I don't want to flat out say it's like, like Haitian foods are not healthy or are healthy. I don't want to. I don't want to be biased or partial, but at the same time, and I feel like the bigger thing that people need to be mindful of about what we're eating, it's not just like the food itself, but it's also portion size, which means that, how much we're eating, even if it's healthy, if we are eating too much of it, that essentially in itself become unhealthy, right? So it's not so much like the food itself, but it's also what are we eating, how much are we eating, so portion size. And I feel like, Haitian doesn't eat nutrition, they don't eat calorie, they just eat food, right? So I think that's the biggest part that is lacking in the Haitian community is really what are we eating, how are we eating, like how we're cooking the food, all that matters.
Talk about Jewy.
Do we?
Yes.
All right.
I don't feel like saying you're a Jew.
Yeah, I like
You're a Jew, but I had to learn the hard way. Too much Jew is not good for you.
Well, to start, I normally recommend people to eat brown rice rather than white rice. So that's the first recommendation. But at the same time, if we are eating white rice, it's really important that we are following the portion size. Like, what is a portion? How much of that white rice we should be eating? A lot of the time when we are thinking about like eating diriyak pois or diriyak sauce pois, right? We're thinking about like, 8 to 10 inches plate, and we fill that entire plate.
Yeah. The restaurants do that too. They fill 3/4 of the plate is rice. And then 1/4 is legume.
It's the legume and then the sauce bar like on top of it, right? So this is like not what the plate should look like or what we should portion at the plate. If we're thinking about serving, an actual serving of rice is about 1/2 cup of rice. So we're talking about like a standard cup, not or cup digi.
Medium cups. Medium cups.
We're thinking about like a standard measuring cup. If you go to the store, you see the measuring cup. So like a serving of rice is half a cup of cooked rice. So if you're thinking about like uncooked rice, so that's about 1/4 of a cup of uncooked rice. And if you cook that, so that gives you about half a cup of rice, and that is like a serving of rice, right? So again, that is not a lot of food if we think about it, but that is what one serving of rice is. But if we're thinking about like Haitian food, when we are eating, for the most part, most people do not eat half a cup of rice, so that's standard 1 serving of rice, right? So, I don't want to like, I don't want to say that, you should, like, rice is bad for you, but the amount of rice that we're eating is certainly bad, right? So, again, the plate should be balanced. It shouldn't just be like the rice and a sprinkle of beans because we cook some beans that the bean is mixed in the rice, right? So, if we're thinking about what the plate should look like, 1/4 of the plate should be, again, some sort of carbs. Carbs is not the enemy, but it's a type of carbs. We want to focus on high fiber carbs. What we call high fiber carbs is things that like brown rice, that's a high fiber carb. So whole wheat pasta, that's a high fiber carb. So we want to focus on high fiber carbs. So 1/4 of the plate should be the starch. 1/4 of your plate should be some sort of protein. And in terms of like what is a serving size of protein, that's about 3 ounces, 3 to 4 ounces. Again, that is not a lot of food, but the amount of food that we consume, again, it's not 3 ounces.
Okay.
And half of the plate should be some sort of fruits or vegetables. So again, the reason why I want to focus on that one, the veggies are low in calorie, and we can fill up on the veggies and not taking in so much calorie. So that's like what a balanced split is. So we have carbs, high fiber carbs, we have lean protein, we have fruits and veg on the plate. So portion do matter. So it's not so much that, oh, you shouldn't eat rice. Like obviously it's the type of rice and how much of the rice that we're eating and what else are we eating with the rice.
Yeah, as Asian, that sounds like Chinese to me because rice is rice. Yeah, but thank you, Dr. August. Thank you, Dr. August. Yeah, am I right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, some good information.
yes, good information.
Yeah.
So that means, if you have a soldier this big, for rice, you're gonna have to find your smaller one.
Yeah. Now.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about fritai?
Fritai. Good thing.
Free time.
Should we just change the oil when it comes to fritai? It's like,
I mean, oil is oil. It doesn't matter if it's
so it's the same oil.
it's I mean, oil is oil, right? So once we're deep frying everything, so all that oil is taken in, we're adding more calorie into that, and even things like if we looked at, for example, sweet potato in itself is actually fairly healthy, and if we boil that sweet potato versus frying it actually increase what we call like the glycemic index. So it actually increased the sugar content in that sweet potato than versus like if you were to boil that sweet potato and eat that. So again, going back into the frying, obviously in moderation, but we are adding calorie into that food just from the fact of frying it.
But it tastes so good. And what would be an alternative?
Well, you can air fry rather than deep fry. So that is an alternative.
Okay. Well, I mean, now they're saying, I've read some reports, that certain air fryers are not good. That's some reports. I don't know. They talk about the ceramic one is much better, ceramic air fryers, but the one that's cast iron, metal air fryers, they have some issues with, I guess, the level of radiation that comes to it.
I have not heard that. I don't know.
I've seen reports that the heat
Yes.
created within the air fryer produces a compound known as acrylamides, and that in high quantities, those can be carcinogenic.
Okay. Let me go ahead and say that I have not read any studies on that. So.
Okay. But they did say the air fryer that's ceramic is a good product, to use.
Or the other option would be to just bake it. So
Yeah.
you don't have to use an air fryer. We can
Yeah.
just bake it.
That's what I've
I
been
prefer
doing.
to bake.
I cook it on the stove. I have to heat up some food. I just do it on the stove.
And I think that's a very good point, because when we start looking at the different ways we heat up our food, some use a microwave, some use the air fryer, some use the oven. I know the oven does take longer, but to me, it would be more like the safer option because of the different, radiation with the microwave or whatever's going on with the air fryer. But it does take longer, but it does, I think have, some health benefits that we don't really know about. But what are your thoughts on that? How do you heat up your food? Do you use the oven?
I use a microwave.
Oh. No issues about the microwave?
No issue
And
about the
I use it too,
microwave. I use a
but-
microwave.
Is there like a max amount of time that you probably won't go over? I probably won't go over a minute, 17 seconds, but what about you?
No, I don't have a number.
No?
I can make a whole meal in the microwave.
Oh, wow, okay.
No concerns.
Well, I guess it was just a bunch of hype with the microwave. I'm glad to hear that. Because normally I'd be a little bit. I hear stories about the microwave, from our parents and things like that. But I'm glad you're debunking that.
Do you use a cell phone?
I do.
Are you concerned with the radio wave going through?
I don't actually have it like on my ears. I put it on speaker, but I know that there is.
Radiation.
Yeah.
I've heard about that too. There's radiation everywhere, but I'm glad that I'm glad you said that, because there's only one way to heat up some spot if you really want it fast. It's in the microwave. Well, we're gonna go take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Yon program ki kontan ak plezi BSM Radio TV a prezante ou. An brezerli de sou tout aktivite haisyen yo apre alazen an Texas, plus spesyelemen nan Houston. L'Eglise, New York, aktivite kiltirel, businessman. SAKAP fet Houston chak samedi 4 pou 6 nan soir rete branche sou BSM. SAKAP fet Houston chak samedi 4 pou 6 nan soir rete branche sou BSM. Radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré.
SAKAP fet Houston. Yon program ke kontan ak plezi BSM Radio TV ap prezenti you. SAKAP fet Houston. Yon program ke kontan ak plezi BSM Radio TV ap prezenti you.
Hey, zami, ou même qu'à vivre dans l'État Texas. Plus précisément dans Houston, moi connais un besoin d'un towing service pour aller machiner qui la gueule dans la rue. Moi connais un besoin d'un moving service pour aller de l'autre côté. Moi connais un besoin d'un bon fritaille. Moi connais un besoin d'un bon expert dans les affaires barbecue. Et une bonne cuisine haïtienne pour faire catering pour toute qualité event qu'on fait. Eh bien, pas négliger contacter Rich and Company Freight Line en ville Houston, Texas. C'est de Richard Alexandre m'a parlé, oui. Richard Alexandre. Créez Richard dans 832 473 76 40. 832 473 76 40. Ou pas progrès. Pas dit c'est moins de non. Yo bay l'autre service tout. C'est un staff complet yo yeah.
SAKAP fet Houston. SAKAP fet Houston. SAKAP fet Houston.
SAKAP fet Houston. SAKAP fet Houston. Yon program ki kontan ak plezi BSM Radio TV a prezante ou. An brezerli de sou tout aktivite haisyen yo apre alazen an Texas, plus spesyelemen nan Houston. L'Eglise, New York, aktivite kiltirel, businessman. SAKAP fet Houston chak samedi 4 pou 6 nan soir rete branche sou BSM. SAKAP fet Houston chak samedi 4 pou 6 nan soir rete branche sou BSM. Radio tiré, radio tiré, radio tiré.
All right, we're back. We're here with soon to be Dr. Rodine, soon to be.
Yeah. Real doctor.
Oh, that's a whole other show about real doctors. But we also have, some of our business news and things like that we need to kind of talk about. Then we'll go right back into and close out that conversation. And then we're going to stay tuned because we do have that TPS guide and tips that we want to definitely roll out before February 3rd. So, Richard, what's going on with those events that you have that you definitely are for the Haitian community?
OK. Vamos commencer avec annonce là. M'ta aimé pour tout le monde partager live là, partager avec famille, amis, et inviter yo pour venir dans la conversation ça, OK? Partagez live là, s'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît. All right. Well, the announcement I have for this evening is that Free Thai Masters and Texas Creole and also Rich & Co. We have a dinner that we are preparing for the community. It's called Dinner d'Amour. It's an evening of love and elegance. It's going to be February 14th, so please mark your calendars. February 14th, Dinner d'Amour, February 14th. And the tickets per couple, it's $150 per couple. We're going to have food. I believe it's a 5-course meal, food, right? We're going to have drinks, all right? The drinks they come with the meal, and then we're going to have a bar. The bar is something separate from the meal. So those of you that want to get your bar on, you could definitely get your drink on. There will be a bar there. Okay, we have bartender. But $150 per couple. And the address is going to be at the location is called Venue d'Amour. And the address is 2710 North Mason Road, Suite 145A. It's a nice, elegant, prestigious place. You're going to really have a good time. There will be security there. All right, we have security there that will be there to keep everything, copacetic. And the dress code, it's semi-formal, okay? It will be a red carpet, elegant style. And it's in Katy, Texas, okay? The number to contact for information is 346-507-8124. 346-507-8124. Thank you.
Well, let's definitely do our best to support that. I know February 14th is a time for couples to go out there and do something. And I know back in the day we used to have to do it, with whatever was available. Maybe there was another culture that was sponsoring Valentine's Day, but this year it's going to be the Haitian culture. So we're definitely happy to have an opportunity where we can go in our own culture and definitely separate, who we like. Hopefully, you'll bring your Haitian counterpart so they can fully participate. But even if you don't have that, that's fine. But yeah, that's a good thing. $150 per couple. You do get a 5-course meal. I hear you guys are having brisket. Are you doing the brisket?
Yes, I'll be doing the brisket.
Nice.
Come check it out.
Brisket. What's the other meat there you're gonna have?
We're gonna have fish, salmon. I believe there will be some griot, right? Because people have been requesting griot. It was on the menu, but they Haitians gotta have their griot, right? And yeah, right. Oh, juri à Jojo. Okay.
One cup. One cup.
Not sure I'm going back. Yes, we beaucoup on the diet, Kunya.
What about sauce? You're gonna have sauce?
I'm getting sauce. Yes.
What are your thoughts about sauce? Because sometimes, we like that sauce dripping on that rice. I know it's not a good thing. I'm guilty of it, but and I may still do it even after what you say. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the sauce is fine. It's like how much oil are you putting in that sauce?
I'm not the one that. I don't think I've ever made my actual own sauce, but I know that there's a lot of oil in it.
There you go.
Tomato paste, onions.
I mean, the tomato paste, the onion, I mean, that's fine, but it's like how much oil, how much butter are you putting in that sauce? How much salt? So it's not so much about the sauce itself, but it's everything else.
Is butter bad for you? 'Cause I like to.
Nothing
Per
is
stick,
nothing
you know.
is bad in moderation.
Right. So if let's say if I'm cooking, if I'm baking salmon, and I want to put butter, little blocks of butter on it to be sure it's
Like it doesn't stick.
not a good thing.
I mean, it's fine. It is fine, but again, like what we also have to be mindful of, if we're eating that, that's okay. But that also add extra calorie into the meal. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, we shouldn't have that and have all the salmon stick in the pan, right? So that's fine, but that also means that, yes, it is tastier with the butter, but that also add extra calorie.
Is there an alternative to, like, even when you're cooking vegetables, like steaming vegetables, is there an alternative to using butter?
I mean, you can use butter. That's fine.
Typically, and the only reason I'm asking because typically, you might use like half or 3/4 of the stick, with those vegetables, maybe 3-4 servings worth of vegetables, things like that. So let's say like those mixed vegetables and the kalalu.
What I would probably say is look in the package that the butter comes and see what does one serving looks like, right? Or 2 serving or 3 serving, depending on how much serving of that veggies you're cooking. If you're cooking 3 servings of veggie, okay, that's fine. I guess we can add 3 serving of butter. But if you're making all that veg and you say, okay, this is 1 serving of veggie, I'm gonna eat all that veggie all by myself. Therefore, we should add 1 serving. So just look how much of that 1 serving is per the package, and then we follow that. So if the serving say 1 whole stick of butter, which more often than not, it's probably like a teaspoon or probably not a whole stick of butter or half a stick of butter.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I appreciate it. These are definitely nutritional facts and tips that we can definitely take to our hearts, because we know that we want to definitely reduce that the health risks and those things within our community. So,
Can I mention something now?
Absolutely.
If we have time? I think a lot of the questions we're asking so far has been more so like, I mean, it is about management sometimes, but like, how do we get ourselves in a place where we don't develop diabetes? But there's also another part of it where we're talking about people who maybe just already have it. How do you manage your diabetes? I think that's another thing too, because it kind of covers like how well are you taking your medication, if you're actually living a healthy lifestyle. All of those matter too. It's not just like the primary prevention, but like the secondary tertiary prevention. So maybe we can touch a bit on that, because there are people, maybe it's a little too late for them to prevent diabetes because they already have it. So maybe I just wanted to see if we could have that conversation as well.
definitely. I used to think diabetes would only happen to older people, but I've seen younger people, especially at the school where I'm at, that have had it, and I would be just in awe and say, how is it even possible that somebody so young, 6th, 7th grade would have to go through surgery, change their diet. Of course, they're doing better now. They've actually improved physically. But yeah, I've seen it happen. So that is definitely a good conversation to have. What do I do now that I have it, and how can I manage it and maintain my level of life?
Well, let's go ahead and start and say that there are 2 types of diabetes. There's type 1 and there's type 2. Yes, I think nowadays we see a lot more younger people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes versus type 1, and even like younger kids. And normally, with this younger kid being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it's usually as a result with lifestyle, dietary indiscretion. That's the most part of it as to why a young person would have type 2 diabetes. But that is completely different with type 1 diabetes. That is typically where young people would be type 1, and the management is completely different. So we're not going to talk about type 1 diabetes. We'll talk about type 2 diabetes. For someone that already developed type 2 diabetes, yes, we can reverse that through diet, lifestyle, exercise, and all those things. But for the most part, the first line of management would be that person would have to start medication. That is going to be the first thing. Nowadays, it is very unlikely that people would have insulin as the first line, just because we have a lot much better treatment like the injections. But for the most part, the first thing, people would have to start on medications, and the first line of treatment for diabetes would be metformin. If you know anyone that has diabetes, that's probably like the first thing that they will probably start them in metformin, and you take that every day. And that helps to pretty much like control your blood sugar in addition to the lifestyle changes. Having diabetes, obviously this is the time where, yes, the primary prevention that should prevent diabetes, we should continue with that, and that could help to reverse that trend. And let me go back and say, to diagnose with diabetes, and you not only would have like a elevated blood sugar, but there's that test that we check, which is like hemoglobin A1C. This is an average of your blood sugar for 3 months, and this is like that what we looked at to determine that, okay, along with your blood sugar, you have diabetes and how controlled that diabetes is. And based on that level of hemoglobin A1C, that would determine the type of treatment, whether it's just, oh, okay, we can just like start with just like one pill, or we need to add other medications onto that. But nowadays, the line of treatment is for someone that have diabetes is normally would be getting them on one of these injections, something like Mounjaro, Ozempic, as they work very well, not just to control the blood sugar, but it really helped to control that secondary component, which is obviously the lifestyle, the diet portion, and helping people lose weight and help them control their blood sugar. So that is like the biggest a reason. But we can't really not, we can't really miss the diet portion, the lifestyle portion that lead to that diagnosis to start. So obviously, we want to make sure that we're eating healthy, and like I mentioned earlier, carb is not the enemy, but it's the type of carbs that we are eating. Again, we want to focus on high fiber carbs, not simple carbs. So what we call simple carbs are things like white rice, white breads, cookies. Those are simple carbs. So we want to focus on high fiber carbs. That's going to be the first things. And like I mentioned earlier, like that balanced plate, making sure that we have other things in the plate, not just like the carbs into the plates.
Like blé, high fiber.
Yeah, blé would be considered high fiber, but again, right, we need all these things in moderation, so portion also do
Even
matter.
blé?
Everything should be eaten in moderation, even blé.
Okay.
You're trying to find a loophole.
All PTV, it should all be in moderation.
Okay.
We have our first caller. You're live. You're on the air. We have our first caller. You're live. You're on the air.
You on the air?
Hello. This is Pastor Shadrach and his best friend, Mr. Rodriguez. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Dr.
Hi.
Russell.
So today we are so happy and so thankful that we have with us an expert in immigration, a former officer, I should say ICE officer, who is willing to come and try to help clarify some of the confusion that we have among brothers and sisters here in Houston. And so, Mr. Rodriguez, everyone here knows who you are, but I like for Brother Mike to go ahead and introduce you officially and properly and ask you questions that he may have for you. And I know you have so much knowledge within the law of immigration, and Haitian brothers and sisters cannot wait to hear from you and learn from you. So let's have Brother Mike go ahead and welcome you and ask you questions that he may have for you. And I know everyone there, I'm looking at them right here. There are 6 of them here. They're sitting there. Each one of them has questions for you. Go ahead with it, Mike. The floor is yours.
Hey, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm going to introduce you to our community. I'm going to do a part in English and Crown, mais nous avons moun là qui a aidé nous avec conseil pour TPS dans Capina sous février, le 3 février. So, here's Mr. Rodriguez. He is, since the moment that I've seen him, he has been an advocate, a fiery advocate, someone that'll put a fire under your toes to move in the correct manner. And so, Mr. Rodriguez, we're glad that you're here. You can grace us with your time. We do have a panel here that we have some questions that we wanted to ask you, because we know TPS is going to be changing starting February 3rd. With ICE.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I really enjoyed the opportunity to give answers to something that I hope I have enough information that everybody is going to have an opportunity to learn something today. It is a very complicated issue in some instance, but not always. It really is pretty simple, but we tend to get things complicated on the government side when it's really not. So anything you guys have that you want to ask, I'll be more than happy to try to answer those. Remember, I'm a former officer, but that doesn't mean that I don't know what's going on today. I have a lot of friends who are still inside, and I'm constantly contacting them to find out why this is happening or what's going on or what may be down the road.
I think one of the very first questions that I wanted to ask you was the difference between the judicial warrants and the administrative warrants, and knocking on the doors, or will, after February 3rd, will ICE be able to just do a forced entry and do a forced entry under an administrative warrant, or will they need a judicial warrant to do that? What are your thoughts?
All right, that's a very good question, and let me answer it this way. The Constitution of the United States says that you are protected from anybody entering your house without the proper paperwork from a judicial judge, not an immigration judge. An immigration judge is an administrative judge, but a judicial judge, somebody who has the power to go ahead and sign for the arrest, for the search, and for the seizure of an individual. Now, immigration judges do not do that. Immigration officers do have the power to go ahead and sign their own warrants of arrest, and can go ahead and make those determinations when they decide. They carry them in their pocket, as a matter of fact. But that is an administrative warrant. It does not have any constitutional protection. In other words, it does not allow them to go into your house. Now, saying that, we also have heard that there are, at the moment, some situations where officers are just kicking the door down, whether they have a warrant or don't have a warrant, And they're basing that on the fact that the individual inside the house does not have the right to be in the United States. Under the United States rules, and I didn't say law, I said rules, an individual who is here without documentation or without permission only has about 5 rights. Those 5 rights are very simple. You have the right to know what your charges are. You have the right to speak to an immigration judge. You have the right to get an attorney, not get one appointed, but buy your own. You have the right to talk to the consul, and then you have a right to have good health while you're being detained. That's it. None of that says you don't have a right to search, seizure, and all that stuff, the protection of that. Well, that's immigration law, but we are talking about literally 2 different things. When a person is in their home on private property, no government official has authorization to enter private property without due process. The due process in this particular case would be an actual warrant signed and issued by a judicial judge for the search and seizure of somebody. Other than that, nobody can go in. You have the right to tell them to get off your property. You do not have to open the door. If they break down the door, be calm, do as they tell you. If they're going to take you under arrest, go ahead and go with them, because they've already violated your civil rights. Now, they can say that you don't have civil rights because of the fact that you're here without documents. That is correct when you are talking strictly an immigration statute. When you are talking criminal or a civil type of action, like entering a house with a warrant or without a warrant, those are constitutionally protected rights, and everybody who is under the jurisdiction of the United States, and that means everybody, has the right to those protections, and they are violating those rights.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. But I do have a question. Based on what I've been seeing in the news and on social media, what do you think is going to happen to Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, especially with all the protests going on, the pushback to this administration? What do you think is going to happen to them?
I think that what's going to happen is what was already decided was going to happen to them at the very beginning of the presidency. Let's look at it in this way. President Trump is a businessman. He is a president of the United States, that's true. But he sees himself, and I believe this to be correct, as a businessman first, and then as a government official second. He understands how to run a company. And what he's doing, if you want to look it up, is exactly what you do when you buy a company from somebody else. They call this a hostile takeover. Why is it called a hostile takeover? Because the people that were in place or in power, they don't want you to take over, but you do it by legal means, this case being the voters. And you know that everybody who is going to be in the new company does not like you. So you're going to have to start firing people here and firing people there and doing this and doing that. Well, you initially walk in and you put in people that you know are going to be beneficial to you. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to stay for the full 4 years or however long you're going to be there. It just means that they are what I need in place right now. Every hostile takeover goes exactly the same way. And when the president of the corporation, the CEO, or whatever, when he feels that he finally has the system set up the way he wants to want it, then he'll go ahead and start putting people into those positions that he has now that are more to gain the trust, to make the money, to get the benefits, to do what makes the company better more profitable, and more effective. So, my opinion, I'm thinking, and I'm basing this again on what I believe he's trying to accomplish. They're probably at within months from being gone, if they're not going to be already gone this month.
That's good.
So, I have another question, and it goes to the asylum seekers, and I guess you would call it those that are actually seeking citizenship. Would there be a difference in their TPS status or their TPS involvement or their TPS identification? I don't know, but would there be a difference as far as that those that were seeking asylum and those that were actually seeking true citizenship, or they're all in the same boat and they're all could be at risk of deportation?
That's a very good question, and the reason it seems difficult for you to understand what is going on, and for the Haitian people to understand what's going on, is because even though there's a lot of talk with regards to Haiti, the Haitians still have a lot of options available to them, and that's because of the conditions that exist right now in Haiti. But just to name a couple off the top of my head, the Haitian people, they can go over to, say, the Dominican Republic or Mexico or another country that might be very receptive to the people and apply for refugee resettlement in the United States. The problem with that program is that you have to remain in that country for at least 2 years before they allow you to come in here. But if you are willing to stay in another country for 2 years after making the application for refugee status in the U.S., when you enter the U.S. as a refugee, you enter almost immediately as a legal permanent resident. I know some people out there, probably some attorneys, are going to say, well, no, that's not true. Yes, it is true, but it depends on the administration. They are the ones that have the authority to say yes or no and when to say yes or no. So that's one. The other thing, too, is, of course, they still have the ability to apply for asylum. If they apply for asylum under what we had called the CDP1, that no longer exists, so that particular system no longer works. But the normal, everyday asylum is still available to any and all Haitians. Okay, but what if I'm already applied for it and I got denied it, and now I don't have any status, and they're telling me I have to leave? Well, here's something you're going to have to understand. You can apply for asylum as many times as you want, as often as you want. We're going to have people that say, well, then if they're not qualified, that's considered a frivolous application. In other words, it's a false application. It's a bad application because they know that they don't qualify. Well, that is true to a point, but in reality, anybody and everybody from another country that is here has the right to make the application for asylum. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed or approved, but you do have the right to make an application. We all do. But are you qualified? Well, that's the system's job. The system will decide that through interviews, through documentation, support documents. They'll make that determination, but you still have a right to go and apply. And there's one more, right off the top of my head, again. We have what they call a Fairness Act, Immigration Fairness Act. It's designed also for eligible Haitians, but it depends. It's a refugee type of status, but it depends also on certain things. If we're talking immediate humanitarian relief, or something that we can probably put off for a couple of months. But there's a lot of things. That's not the only three. There are much more than that. And we hadn't even talked about the probability or the possibility of maybe even putting in for what they call an R1 for the religious visa. That is something that's also been modified here recently, and a lot of people may be eligible for that. And no, it doesn't mean you have to become a minister. As a matter of fact, that particular deal is designed so that nonprofit religious organizations inside the United States can go ahead and utilize that, so that people that are ministers and non-ministers in religious vocations and occupations may come to the U.S. temporarily for the purpose of performing religious work.
I have a question for you, Mr. Rodriguez. My name is Yves. Since CPS for the Haitians is about to be over by February 3rd, what do you think will happen to those? To those migrants who will not have CPS? So, are they going to send them letters telling them they have to leave the country, or are they going to send ICE for ICE to come and get them? So, what will be the option?
You're right. That's exactly what will happen. The first thing that's going to happen, we don't have the people and we don't have the bed space to go ahead and arrest everybody. So what we're going to do as an immigration service, they're going to issue the letters first. They will do a general announcement, more than likely on the news, telling you that you have X amount of time to go. And then they'll go into the system. And if they have you already registered under whatever program, they will send a notice to the last known address saying that you have to report with a bag or baggages and be prepared to go ahead and be removed from the country such and such time. Remember also that we still have available the what they call a voluntary departure, where the government is willing to pay you $5,000 plus a fee, airfare to go back to your country. That's a voluntary deal, and it will not be held against you, which means that within 24 to 48 hours after you land in your country, you will be able to come back in or reapply to come back in. The problem is not that with the Haitians. The Haitians don't have any place to go. The system that we have right now in Haiti, as you guys are more aware than I am, the conditions are not favorable for anybody returning to be able to remain there and live a normal life. So what do we do with those individuals? Well, now we have a problem. We don't have a government that we can call a government in Haiti who can authorize the travel documents that are required by law to send somebody back to Haiti. So where do we send them? Well, we have other places. Canada, Argentina just came up this past couple of days that they're willing to take people. Canada, Mexico, all these people have ways that will take them. In Canada, as you know, some of the country speaks French, so fitting in Canada's system may be an option, maybe a good option. And there's other things that are absent, but the TPS in and of itself, will it last? Will it actually be terminated during the time that they say? I think it will be terminated, and I think that we're going to have a 2 or 3 month wait before they reinstitute it, because again, there is nobody who can authorize the removal of a Haitian back to Haiti, and Haiti has conditions at the moment that are not safe and do not help normalize the situation over there. We still have a lot of work that needs to be done, and in my opinion, that's a ball that the United States dropped. They should have took care of this a long time ago. Instead, many people that were foreign politicians and businessmen, I think, utilized the conditions in Haiti to raise money, raise funding, and really never offered anything to the people.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, and thank you for your service.
Yeah. And if you're just now tuning in, TPS is due to be terminated for more than 300,000 Haitians, hardworking Haitians in Texas and every state in the USA. And we're speaking with Mr. Rodriguez to finding last minute updates, for Tuesday, February 3rd. And I think one of the concerns that we've heard in our community was the primary interaction that with police, and some of the Haitians definitely wanted to know, if someone asks me for my ID, should I give it to them or should I not? If I'm just, happen to be walking down the street and someone pulls over and asks me for my ID, any type of tips or advice you want to give on that particular part, because that is where I think the gray area is.
And it is a gray area, and the reason it is a gray area is because even regular U.S. citizens are being caught up in the same situation. So let me try to explain to you why this is occurring, and maybe this can help solve some of the questions about should I or should I not have ID with me. According to the rule, prior to President Trump's first time as president back in 2016, he changed the limit from the border where a Border Patrol agent could stop somebody and check their status without having any reason, without having probable cause, without any warrants or whatever. He can just stop you no matter what, and they still can, and just to see who you are. Well, he changed that from 25 miles from the border now to 100 miles from the border. Why is that important? Well, that means that now if you are living in Corpus Christi, then from the border, you're just at about 100 miles from the border down in Mexico. So they're able to go up there and stop you and talk to you. If you are stopped by immigration officials, we are not talking about police officers, we're talking about immigration officials. FBI is not an immigration official. U.S. Marshals, DPS, they're not immigration officials, they're peace officers or special agents. They are strictly law enforcement, criminal law enforcement. They cannot ask you to prove who you are under the state law of Texas. Now that doesn't mean they're not going to give you a hard time. They are. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't carry ID. You probably should. But legally speaking, according to the law of the state of Texas, they don't have the right to force you to identify yourself if you're not doing anything wrong. Now, if you're in a location where, let's say you're at a public park and somebody takes out a gun and starts shooting everything all over the place, and the police get there and they want to question everybody, yeah, then that's probably an area where they could say, you need to show me your ID, and you probably should show them the ID. But technically speaking, if you're just sitting there enjoying the sun, reading a book, and they walk up to you and say, hey, I want to see your ID, no, you don't have to do it if it is law enforcement. If it is an immigration officer, he is only authorized to do that with people who are not U.S. citizens. Anybody who is not a U.S. citizen, legal permanent resident, and down, when an immigration officer asks for your ID, you must show it to him. Why? Because the reason you have legal permanent residency, U visa, student visa, or anything that gives you an authorization to be here is because immigration is allowing you to remain in this country. And because of that reason, you're beholden to them, so you have to show it to them. But we go back to the 100 limit. If anybody is within 100 miles of the border, then CBP, Customs and Border Protection, or ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, can stop you just to ask you for your ID, and there's very little that you can do. Whether you're a U.S. citizen or not has nothing to do with it. Here in Texas, we have, all throughout the nation, we have several places that are considered borders. We know about Mexico in the U.S., we know about Canada in the U.S., we know about the East Coast and the West Coast, but we also have international airports. Every international airport is a U.S. border. 100 miles around the airport allows the immigration officials to ask questions. If you are near a consulate of another country or an embassy or one of their missions, 100 miles around that, those consulates, embassies, and missions of another country are U.S. borders as well. If the consul general or the ambassador is driving in his car, going to and from work or wherever, that car is also a U.S. border, 100 miles around the car. If he stops in, let's say he goes to Nacogdoches, Texas, and the consular or ambassador or the mission general decides to go and sit down in a room and puts up his little flag and says, I want to speak to my people, that door for that room is now a border.
Wow.
That's good stuff. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Or maybe we're not.
I got a question. I know in the past when Biden was in office, Greg Abbott, he often threatened to remove Texas from the Union. And but he never, followed through with that threat. But with what took place in Minnesota and other states to come, couldn't they remove themselves from the Union just to protect its citizens from federal enforcement?
Oh, good question. Okay. All right, let me put it to you this way. You are your father's son. So if you sit there in the next 24 hours and you say, you know what, I don't want to be his son no more. I'm going to remove myself from being his son. Can you physically do that? Can you honestly do that? Can you legally do that? Or here's worse, can you biologically do that? The answer is no to the last one. Well, every state in the Union has already signed a treaty allowing them to be governed by all of the United States. That's what we call it, United States. So an individual state, except for one that I'm aware of, cannot secede from the United States. They don't have the option to do that. There is one state who did keep that into their constitution, even though it doesn't say it directly that they have the right to do that. They signed a contract with the United States that stated that the United States would protect their boundaries and make sure that nothing happens if they were to join. That state, Texas. Texas is the only state that signed a contract saying that. Everybody else joined the union knowing that they will be a part of a union forever. If they were to try to vote themselves out, then they can be overridden by the other 49 states.
Okay.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, guys, but
Right.
for the most part, no, they can't, even if they wanted to. Now, the easiest way for them to get away with not being harassed by the federal government is the same way for us. Just whoever's in the federal government, vote them out. Put somebody else in there, and let's go ahead and get the rules changed. Now, that's a whole different ballgame. If we can get somebody into the Congress who's willing to go ahead and change the Constitution and put in an amendment saying that the state has the right to leave based on a vote on their majority, and everything changes.
What about withholding funds to the federal government? Is there like a...
All right, that's... Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like say, for instance, taxes,
Right.
or yeah, because like for instance, we have here in Texas, we have oil and gas. We also have the refineries. So that gas gets sold all over the country. But the people that purchase that pay for it with taxes. I mean, the oil company here, if I sell like a gallon of gas in Florida, I have to still get the taxes because I got to pay taxes for a year. All right. So then I say, well, there's a Florida a federal tax that's on there as well. What if I just say, no, I'm not going to pay that tax? Can I do that? You can do that. Anybody can do that. But there's already laws in place where if you don't pay the taxes, you're going to go to jail. Is it illegal? That's the question. Is it illegal? No, it is not illegal not to pay your taxes. But before I go on, again, I know there's going to be a lot of people, especially attorneys, are going to sit there, oh, you can't say that, you can't say that. Wait a minute. There's more, okay? No, it isn't illegal, it's unlawful. It is against the law not to pay your taxes. So no, it's not a good idea. But do you have to pay them? No, sir. You do not have to pay them, but you will be charged, arrested, and all that. It's like you don't have to stop at every stop sign, but you're going to get a ticket. You're going to get taken to jail if you don't. You don't have to do anything the law says, but there's consequences.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for all the great information you're sharing. I think one thing that came to mind when you were speaking is, I'm curious about what you would tell young families, like especially people with children. So how can they speak to their kids about this or prepare them with them going to school or just being around in the neighborhood? Any advice for at least parents listening to this?
Well, the good thing about that is that I'm not an attorney, so I cannot give advice, but I can tell you what the law says. And the law in the United States says this: every child has to attend public school, whether they like it or not. Now, in Texas, we're one of the very few states that allows you to go ahead and have homeschool or private charter or what have you, but he has to be educated. That's the bottom line. So what do you tell your kids? How do you manage that? Well, that's a two-edged sword, because we have kids that are here without documentation. They also don't have status. And then we have those kids who have status, born here, U.S. citizens, but their parents don't have status. So how do those two differ? It's a big difference. It's a difference because a person who is not a United States citizen can only exercise the benefit of being in the United States. Not a right, but benefit. Again, let me also say, we are talking about immigration, not criminal or civil law. There's a big difference. But under immigration, those without documentation or those who are not U.S. citizens only have benefits that they have to adhere to in order to get that immigration status. Now, what would I tell a young family? That if my children were like me with no documents, I would tell them that, look, these are probabilities. The probability is very high that you may encounter somebody who doesn't like you and may call immigration. You are already disadvantaged, and that causes the major disenfranchise that we are seeing in the communities. But you have to go. You don't have a choice. If you don't go to school, I don't have the money for the charter or for a private school. You're going to have to go to public school. If you don't go to school, I will get arrested, and it's guaranteed I'm going to be deported. So if I'm going to get deported, you also don't have status. The whole family will be deported and we'll have to go back to our country. If you're from a country like Haiti, for instance, where it's very difficult to try to get something done, then yeah, it's going to be very difficult to take a family over there and be safe and be ready to do whatever you can.
I have a question. Go ahead, sir.
So that's one of the deals. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question because after February 3rd, if someone was summoned to go to court, should they go? And what would their options be if they're being detained? What would be their next steps? Should they go to court if they're asked to go post February 3rd? And let's say they go to court and they're detained, or let's say something happens and they're detained, what would their options be to try to salvage this stay here in the United States?
And let me add this to it. And why would they be detained if the government cannot sign off for them to go back to Haiti?
Wow. Okay, so that's two. Let's start with the first one. All right, can you shorten that question a little bit, because I think that might be confusing to a lot of people that might be listening.
So if I was summoned to go to court, immigration court, after
Right.
February 3rd, Is it a good idea to go in good faith, or should I run, basically?
Okay, let's leave it right there. That's the easiest way to answer that or ask that. Okay, so if a person does not go to the court as they are told to go, they are going to receive a deportation order. The deportation order is going to be issued what they call absentia. In other words, you were absent, you didn't show up, and therefore we're going to issue the deportation order. At the same time, we also have the other side of the coin, and that is, what do we do? Is there anything we can do if we show up and we're found to be deportable? We're going to get deported. If we show up and the judge says, I'm going to reset the case, then all of a sudden, as I'm walking out the door, ICE can go ahead and pick me up. Those are all being done today. So should I even show up? I don't want to show up because I'm scared. Are there any options? Yes, there are options. Under immigration court proceedings, you can ask for a video conference or a telephonic conference where you would use a video like Zoom in order to go to court. You don't have to be there physically. Or you can call it in. Or you can ask for them to reschedule it because you have something else you'd like to have a little bit more time to either get an attorney, to research more. You can submit a paperwork asking them to reschedule it, and they can do that. Once you're at there and you do show up, and there's a probability that you might get deported, you have other rights inside the court. I said rights only because they are administrative rights inside of the court. One of the things you can do is you can say, Your Honor, I know that I haven't convinced you, or I think that you feel like you may have to issue an order of deportation. Before you do that, can I request an administrative closure of my case so that I can go and take care of things and settle my bills and get with people and sell my house or business or do whatever I got to do to get ready to leave, and then can I come back and say in 6 months, and then we can go ahead and move forward with the case? Or, Your Honor, I understand you're about to probably issue a decision. Before you make a decision, can I ask that the court allow me to leave the country voluntarily? And if you do ask that one, you want them to do what is known as a decision of voluntary departure without prejudice. Without prejudice. It's not what you think. That word is very important, but it's not what we're talking about as far as discrimination. What it means is, if you are given an order by a court and they say with prejudice, that means that you are no longer allowed to appeal, or well, you can appeal, but you're no longer allowed to apply for any other application or benefit. If the court says that they will allow you to leave without prejudice, then it allows you to go ahead and apply for something else before you even leave the country, like asylum, legal permanent residency, student visa, or 172 other ones that are sitting out there. So that would be the way. But what are the probabilities? Let's get back down to the brass tacks. If you don't show, you're going to get deported. If you get stopped after that right now, any police officer is going to call in and say, especially in Texas, that you have an outstanding warrant of deportation, and they're going to pick you up and they're going to deport you. But then we're back down to, again, what we talked about before. What if there's no official to authorize the removal? That's a good question. What happens then? The president can go ahead and ask for another country to go ahead and take you, like Argentina, Mexico, or some other country that he's already dealing with, or El Salvador, or whatever. So it depends. It's hard to tell anybody. All I can only tell you, again, I can't give you advice, but I can tell you what the law says. You're still going to have to make that decision on your own.
That's a good point.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez, for such detailed, thorough information. One quick question or situation I've heard about is that when some individuals are attempting to voluntarily depart the United States, they're being detained by ICE. unable to leave the States. Why might that be?
Okay. Yes, that is correct. And the reason that's occurring is because at the moment, the way that the system is set up, they want to make sure the person leaves. So yes, you can go into the court and request for a voluntary departure, or you can ask the voluntary departure from the individual officer. And each one of those has the authority to go ahead and issue that. And each one has so much time that they can give you in order to stay here before you have to leave. However, they also don't have to give you that little grace period. They can go ahead and say, well, all right, you have a voluntary departure, but you're going to leave as soon as we can get you onto the next plane. So we're going to go ahead and detain you while we go ahead and you're going to help us get all the paperwork we need to get you out of the country. You still get to leave voluntarily, but now you are not free to go home, say goodbye to your kids, goodbye to your spouse, and take care of anything you need to take care of. But yeah, it does happen.
Okay. Well, thank you for the response. And one quick follow-up is that short period of detention, well, hopefully short, does that negatively impact one's immigration record in the U.S.?
Excellent question. Beautiful question. No. Voluntary departure is a very unique animal in and of itself. Whether you are voluntarily returned when you enter illegally at the border by Border Patrol, like back to Mexico or Canada, voluntary departure has the same type of weight. They call it legal weight. What that means is, no, they cannot use anything against you that you did prior to their exit. So let's say you came in 20 years ago and you've been here unlawfully for 20 years, and then you finally get in front of a judge and the judge says, I'm getting ready to go ahead and pass sentence. And you say, wait a minute, can I get voluntary departure? And he goes, oh, okay. Well, when he does that, the 20 years no longer exist. It's gone. So they cannot use that against you. And that's important because that also means, hopefully, that he's not going to give you a bar for reentry. Some judges will give you a minimum of 3 years. Others may not.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Now, I have a question. I know me and you talked about this before in the past, but my question is, if you have a deportation order and instead of going to your country, you go to the embassy instead, couldn't you go to the embassy and start the process from scratch all over again?
Yeah, we have talked about that before. And does that happen? Can it happen? And can people do that? Okay. Again, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to tell you that you can't do this, especially even some of the immigration officials out there. But let me explain to you why they say that. But first, before I say that, let me tell you what the law says. The law, when it originally came out in 1996, stated that anybody who was ordered to leave the country had to leave the country. Once they left the country, they had to prove that they left the country. That's it. Well, what do we send that proof? Well, before it used to be just Immigration and Naturalization Service. And then in 2003, when we switched over to the 5 different agencies, now it depends on which agency you have to send that to. Most of the time, it's USCIS. Sometimes it's Border Patrol. Right now, Border Patrol thinks that they're the ones that should be notified. And all that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the law does not require that. The law specifically states once you leave the country, all you need to do is inform an immigration official that you have left and provide the proof of that. So, why is that important? Well, it's important because the government uses that against people. In my particular situation, when I was a deportation officer, one of the things that we were able to do is to go ahead and have the ability to deport somebody after they deported themselves. This is known as a self-deport. Now, it's called that because of an abandonment clause inside of immigration statutes or law. And that means that, for instance, to give you an example, I have somebody that's going to be deported, or he's not being deported yet, but he wants to leave. And then he says, I want to just go ahead and take care of this. I don't want to go to the courts. I don't want to get a deportation order. Can you grant me the voluntary departure? And I say, sure, no problem. And then he shows me all the paperwork, and he shows me a passport that's almost no good anymore. It still needs to be extended a little bit. And I say, this doesn't have enough time for me to do what I need to do, so this has to be taken care of. And that's all I say. Well, he takes off to the consulate, wherever it is. Let's say the one he's got here in Houston. He goes in. They issue him a new passport. He comes back to my office and says, here you go. I got it taken care of. And I look at the passport and I say, oh, great. They gave you 5 years. Awesome. Great. And I say, wait a minute. Where did you get this done? He goes, oh, I went to the consulate and got it done. Oh, well, in that case, sir, I'm sorry. You're no longer eligible for the voluntary departure because when you left the country, you self-deported. And the reason we call it a self-deport is because according to the rules, if you are under any process and you leave the country for whatever reason, no time frame required, we consider that to be an abandonment of the process and therefore a self-deportation, a formal self-deportation. So if we, the government, can use that in order to get you removed from this country formally, it also works the other way. If I'm ordered to leave and I have to leave by a certain amount of time or a certain date, yes, technically speaking, and you can leave through the consulate. You can go to the consulate and have them review your documents. They will write down that you entered their country, consulate, and that when you exit, they a lot of times will give you a receipt showing that you were at the consulate. Well, when you get back to your house, you can send a copy of that to an immigration official, let's say the immigration judge. And the immigration judge will more than likely take it and say, okay, case terminated, case closed, we're done. And under the law, you have done everything to satisfy the order, and you should no longer be held accountable. But immigration doesn't like that right now. They want you to send that directly to ICE, and they want you to do that at the bridge or at the airport because they want to make sure you left. Even though you have proof from the consulate that you left, but that's where an attorney comes in, and then they'll argue that in court saying, look, he left. I got proof. You're going to call the consulate general a liar? But that's a whole different issue. But yes.
Okay. And I wanted to ask one more question in regards to the schooling and education. And I know that Pastor Shadrach has the HCC programs that he's doing. Did you ever find a situation where a deportation may have been stopped due to the fact someone was enrolled in school?
Okay, are we talking about a child that is a citizen or a child who is not a citizen?
Not a child, but an adult who's not a citizen who's enrolled in school and actively going. Would that
normally, and I say normally because up until about 2 or 3 months ago, that was the situation. If somebody was going to school and they had a valid reason to go to school, then normally we would not even touch that. The ICE would go ahead and just let the guy go back to class and let him deal with that, or we would call the counselor and tell the counselor, look, this person may be in violation. And it did happen, not always, but it did happen. Like, for instance, part of having the student visa, you get to have a work visa. So you get to go out and work and all that good stuff. The problem with that is that the work permit is only good for what class you're taking. So if you are taking a class on let's say, sewing, but you're out working in a restaurant as a general manager, then you're working illegally, because you're only allowed to do work in the course you're taking. So you can only sew, you can only be in, do alterations and that kind of stuff, but you can't work anywhere else. So what we try to get people to understand is when you're going to take courses somewhere, we ask them to try to take a general course as your major, like business, maybe culinary, hospitality, because you can do so much more in those types of classes. If you have a business course, well, hey, business is anything, restaurant, dry cleaners, car wash, gas station, Whataburger. Business is business. You're in a business. So you can work anywhere with that. You're not limited. But, so those are things. But yes, so it does happen. An officer comes along, sees that you're working in the wrong place, but rather than take you and turn you in, we used to just go ahead and call. And I say we. Remember, I'm a former guy, but I have a tendency. We're talking about immigration. I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here. So then we would say, look, go back to the college. You're going to have to quit this job, find yourself a better job, find one that falls underneath what you're asking for. We would get a hold of the counselor at the college and tell him, look, he was in violation because of this, and this. We're not going to do anything at the moment. Help him get better situated. Today, that's not the case. Today, we are immigration, ICE, we're utilizing everything that you can to try to get these individuals canceled or denied and removed, such as, and one of the biggest things they're using is social media.
Well, that's a lot of information. We might have one more question, and then Mr. Rodriguez, we're going to close out, and we want you to be here for our closeout because we're going to translate this to our people. And so thank you so much. I think Richard has one more question.
Yes, thank you once again for coming to the radio and calling in to give us some powerful insight, intelligence, and wisdom on how to proceed forward. My final question for today is, okay, as you already know, what took place in Minneapolis when the protest took place inside of a church, right?
Yes.
You had 4 journalists that went in there and they covered the story. Now, they got charged with the FACE Act, and
Yes.
they arrested them, and and then they were released from jail. Now, just because this administration felt that it was necessary, even though the judge ruled against it, they felt it was necessary to still arrest those 4 journalists, right? What protection does the Haitian church have against ICE officers coming in to interrupt services, looking for people, right, within the church they don't even have a warrant for? And the second part to that question, what protections do the Haitian churches have with ICE officers? The other part is, in the upcoming months, we're going to be celebrating Haitian Flag Day. So,
Right.
how do we prepare the community for possible invasion from ICE? How do we keep our community safe if we plan on doing this event?
Well, those are 2 very powerful questions, and they have like 3 different answers. So let's start with the FACE Act first. The FACE Act was designed for one reason only, and that was to protect the faith of any individual, no matter where he practices at. The reason is because under the Constitution, we have very specific instructions that say no one will make any law against or trying to stop or impede of the what, right? All right. The second thing is, how do we protect from ICE? Well, the reason that they're going after the individuals that went into the church under the FACE Act was precisely that. You see, the rights that we have as constitutional rights, they are very powerful. But there is one underlying right that nobody talks about because it's not written down. And that is, you have the right to exercise your right until, up to, and until it begins to impede on somebody else's right. So the right to protest, the right to be a journalist, all that is no problem at all. But when you impeded or you started, interfering with somebody else's right, which was the right to religion, your right stopped. So as soon as they walked in the church and did that, their right to protest, their right to be a journalist and the media stopped. The same thing with ICE. Now, will they come in? At the moment, yes. Can they come in? Yes. Any law enforcement officer can church. However, it is only under the duties that you are exercising. For instance, if I pull somebody over as a police officer, he takes off running because he doesn't want me to arrest him, he runs into a church, I have the authority to run after him and make the arrest inside the church, because it's not the church that is my target, it was the individual. Now, other side of the coin, a law enforcement officer cannot go into a service and try to arrest somebody while the service is taking place, because religion, and I hate to use this word, but I'm going to use it, religion trumps the law. There's no way that you can sit there and violate all the people's rights just to make one arrest. So if he's still sitting there, if he's praying, you gotta let him finish praying. You can't do anything. If he prays 24 hours a day, you can stand there and wait for him. As long as he's in there and he's doing what he wants to do in his faith, you are not allowed to touch him. No way, no how. That is a serious violation of his rights. But once the sermon or the mass or whatever service that they have is done, then yes, once they become normal citizens again, because at that point they're religious participants. They are parish congregants and what have you. But once they become citizens again, just normal everyday people, yes, then you go ahead, you can make the arrest. But even ICE cannot enter while a mass or service or something is going in. The government is not allowed. That is the reason that the First Amendment was enacted first. Nobody, the government cannot stop the freedom of the press, cannot stop the freedom of religion, cannot stop the right to grievance. Right to grievance is what covers the protest.
Okay. Mr. Williams, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so why should the Haitians migrate subject themselves to ICE on Sundays? Should it be much better for them while we are experiencing this situation for them to stay home on Sundays?
Good question, and let me go and answer it this way. No. That's simple. No, because religion is the First Amendment is exactly that. It's the First Amendment. It's the one amendment that nobody, not even the government, can override. There is no way that they're allowed to override it. The only way they can do that is by changing their amendment, and that takes 2/3 of the state to help make that happen, and that's not going to happen. That's number one. I regress to, because I forgot to mention the part or answer the part about Flag Day. Flag Day is something that another day, yeah. So what do you do with a Flag Day? I would go out there and exercise wherever I can. What if I don't have papers? There's a problem there. I don't like anybody to expose themselves unnecessarily, but at the same time, you're not protesting. This is not a protest. So in that respect, the individual is not doing anything wrong. They're just here. If they get arrested, during that time because they don't have any status, then they're just arrested for not having status, but they haven't done anything wrong. In the protest, and then the reason that we had individuals in Harvard and in Yale who were students and they got arrested is because as a non-citizen, you do not have the right to protest, and they were protesting. So that's one of the reasons they got arrested.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of ask, do a follow-up question. But if we registered Haitian Flag Day as a protest, but it ended up being a festivity.
Okay, well,
Would
you
that
know
be
what?
legal?
I know what you're talking about. No, I know what you're talking about. This is something that we covered in the academy, yes. There is a protest, and you can protest. There's nothing wrong with protesting. But I think what we forget here is this. The protest that we've just outlined with regards to not having the right to protest has to do with the right to protest this government. You have the right to protest the Haitian government, even though you're in the United States, yes.
Okay. And the Haitians are protected.
Yeah, because you're not in our government. You're protesting the. Oh yeah, you have a right to do that. You have a right to celebrate the Haitian independence. Sure, you have a right to do that. Why? We do it here all the time. The 4th of July, the celebration for the United States of America, celebration for the independence of America. Two big different deals. But we don't look that way anymore. We see it all as one part. But you have to remember that even the founding fathers, everybody who created this country was not a citizen. That's simple.
Yes.
So the very first thing that they had to do was become citizens. Wait a minute, that's immigration. Yes, sir, it is. They had to make everybody a citizen before they were allowed to what? Become president and senator and congressman and have the authority to enact laws. Otherwise, if you are not a citizen, you do not have that right.
Well, you've heard it from the man himself, Mr. Rodriguez, and we thank you for your time. We're going to do a quick wrap up, and you guys can help me with the Creole translation. I know we have several of our community that have heard the words, but may not exactly understand it. But if you bear with us, go ahead.
Yeah, could I just say something real quick? Because I know we have people that are listening out there that are going to might try to view some of this as me being a little bit one-sided. I'm not. I am just talking about the law. I am not an attorney. I do not wish to be an attorney. I am telling you what I've done personally. This is my personal knowledge, and this is the stuff that I studied and was taught by the United States government. It is not advice. It is simply what the law states.
Bon, nou gen moun sa wap tande la, se yon moun ki te yon ICE officer, se yon moun ki te kon deporte moun. Se kounya, monsye sa la ede nou kompon dynamik yo nan TPS, epi se li men ki pon toutan pou esplike nou. Se na toujou mwen ap suivre le loi, le yon moun vi demande yo pou ID, se ou pa gen papye sou, se yon moun si imigrasyon vi demande yo pou ID, ou oblige ba yo ID ya. Si yon mande yo pou al nan court, oblige ale nan court la, men ou te ka ale sou video, ou bien ou te ka ale le tou, ou te ka mande, pou fè sa sou video, ou bien sou telefon. Men, problem na, on February 3rd to February 3 février, konen TPS la chanje pou tout moun Etats-Unis. Di Haïtien yo ni tout moun. So, men konsey li te pa nou, si ou pa bezwen sorti, like Island, ou pa bezwen sorti, men we're not living in fear. Nou pa nous seulement qui écoute pour bon Dieu, nous pas qui écoute pour l'éducation ça, mais la prêter dans la prière, et si vous avez un problème, si vous déterre ou bien un problème, there are other options to take out that too. You have a right to see the counseling. You have different rights. It's 5 different rights, and we'll go over that, put that into the group chat. But I'm sure I'm missing some things. Richard, you could.
Yes. Once again, we want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for the wisdom and guidance that he has shared with the Haitian community. And at this moment, I want to ask Mr. Rodriguez if anybody wants to get in touch with you to get some consultation. Do you want to share your contact information with the community?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I can be reached at. Here we go. Where's my stuff at? Oh, here it is. I can be reached at 346-285-0026. That is my direct line. Anyone who wants to have that information, or I'm sure they can contact anybody from this radio show. I know most of you guys have my information as well.
Yes.
Yes.
And yeah, feel free to send me anything. I have a couple of email addresses, what have you. But if you just send me a text with my email address, and I'll give you it directly, and then I can go ahead and answer any questions you have off of that.
And again, that number is 346.
346-285-0026.
And one thing I'd like to add, here at People Outreach Ministries, any complicated case that we came upon, we always contacted Mr. Rodriguez. We had conference calls, and he gave us, he really showed us the game on how to help a lot of Haitian migrants here in the community. And we helped a lot of people by the wisdom and guidance of Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. We do thank you and appreciate you for everything that you've done. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for
I appreciate
imparting your wisdom on us.
Thank you for what you did. That was a great show.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Dorothy has another quick announcement real quick, and then
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, everyone. Good evening. You might have heard Dr. Katia earlier. We wanted to share her information. She is a medical doctor of Haitian origin, and she has a practice. She's also a corporate member of Houston Haitians United, and we're pleased to share her information with the community. Her practice is called Lease Wellness and Weight Management, located at 701 North Post Oak Road, Suite 205 in Houston. Zip code is 77024. Phone number 713-338-0082. Visit her practice on leasewellness.com. She specializes in weight management. Pour tout Haïtien qui Houston yo, nous avons un docteur haïtien qui spécialisé qui aide moun qui vle perdre poids yo. Li rele docteur Katia Jean-Baptiste, li localisé li sous North Post Oak Road, 701 North Post Oak, suite 205, et zip code là c'est 77024. Et ou ka contacter li sous leasewellness.com ou bien 713-338-0008D.
She speaks Creole.
Et li parle créole, li fait partie des Houston Haitians United comme un membre et un membre business, corporate member. So, nous très fiers de lui et il était là, il ba nous pile bon conseil et nous apprécions le pile. Merci à tout le monde.
All right.
Thank you. Well, we're coming down to the final moments of the show. We're about to go to commercial.
SAKAP fait Houston.
SAKAP fait Houston. SAKAP fait Houston. Woo. Yon program qui content avec plaisir BSM Radio TV à présenter ou. En Brésil, de sous toute activité haïtienne, yo après à la en Texas, plus spécialement dans Houston. L'église, New York, activité culturelle, businessman. SAKAP Houston, chaque samedi 4 pour 6 heures en soirée, restez branchés sous BSM. SAKAP Houston, chaque samedi 4 pour 6 heures en soirée, restez branchés sous BSM. Radio tiré, 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 radio tiré.
Okay, thank you for tuning to the show today. We did go overtime. We did do much needed overtime. And so pretty much we want to thank soon to be Dr. Odine, Richard Alexandre, Dorothy Dupree, Dr.
Katia.
Katia,
Jean-Baptiste.
Jean-Baptiste, Dr. Pearson, of course,
Pastor Sackler.
Sister Sabine, Pastor Shadrach. We want to thank everybody.
Mr. Rodriguez.
And Mr. Rodriguez, definitely, for sure, for being a part of the show.
Mr.
And,
Eve, too. Eve. Mr. Eve.
and Mr. Eve.
Yeah.
No, we can all do this together.
Mr.
You
Eve.
know. But we did definitely want to just do a quick prayer going into this week so that, God can be with us, be with you, and give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in everything that we do. So join us in this prayer, and then we'll go ahead and let you go, and pray that you have a wonderful week and a wonderful rest of the year. Papa, nous queremos ser nous vivre là devant, nous remercions parce que vous menez-nous là ensemble pour venir parler avec qui ça va correct dans le futur. Nous remercions parce que vous voyez toute connaissance ça pour venir parler avec peuple. Et puis nous remercions parce qu'on a pas nos sagesse, soit pas nos connaissances, et puis, dis-nous ça pour faire avec l'esprit au Seigneur. Nous remercions pour Dr. Gus, son Sabine, qui recevoir tout le monde ça là dans la radio station. Nous demandons à ce qu'on bénisse plus. Et puis, on va quitter. You're going to keep them strong under the shadow of your wing, Lord God. We thank you. We praise you. We thank you for Richard, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you for blessing Pastor Shadrach, Dorothy Rodine, Eve. We thank you for Jean and Jaxie, who were not here today, but we know that you're still with them. Thank you for the community. Thank you for blessing BSM Radio. And thank you for helping us Houston Haitians survive this moment and this time. It's in the mighty name of your son we pray. Amen.
Amen. Have a good week, everybody.
Yes, and shout out to Sarah Rose.
Yes.
SAKAP Houston. SAKAP Houston. SAKAP Houston.
SAKAP Houston. SAKAP Houston. Woo.
Yon program ki kontan ak plezi BSM Radio TV a prezante ou. An brezer li de sou tout aktivite haisyen yo apre alazen an Texas.
Ay eskele de drapo nou piwa 18 novembre 1803 Zanset nou yo te fe batay vertier 18 novembre 2025 Nou fe batay vestiere Se yo bel okasyon Pour tout haïtien dans 4 coins du monde à lever campé Pour défendre pays nous contre toute forme colonisation Cap envahi Haïti